Hello friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time. And today I'm going to be talking about the many uses for your various flavored extracts. So today is actually February 26th, and my extract making video that I did on the alcohol-free version just went out, and I had people coming in and asking me how I use my various extracts. So I thought today would be a good day to talk about this, just to explain the many ways you can start implementing these in the various things you do. And I'm also going to be starting another extract experiment. You know me, I love to experiment all the time. So first, let's talk about the many ways that you can use it. Let me show you right here. These right here are the 3 glycerin and water-based extracts that I made in that video that I will link down below if you'd like to check that out and how I made these. And then I also have another extract making video on the way I normally make it, but I also still experiment and try various different things. But anyway, it's been almost a month since I made these, and you can see the coffee and the raspberry have taken on a pretty dark color. The pineapple's not ever going to get very dark because, well, the pineapple's not very dark to begin with. So I just don't expect it to. However, the last time, I haven't tasted them yet today, but I tasted them about 2 weeks ago or a week ago or so, and boy, are they good. And they haven't even been infusing for quite a month yet, and I like to leave them for a minimum of 2 months, even longer if I don't need them right away. And then this one was the orange one. I started using my normal recipe with the glycerin and homemade wine. I do make extracts using only homemade wine. That's usually my medicinal ones. I am eventually going to start experimenting using the homemade wine only in my flavored extracts, but for now I'm really liking the flavor that the glycerin gives, and it also helps extend the life of my homemade wine because I have many uses for it even though I don't drink. And then here's another one I started. I know it looks a lot darker than the orange one even though it was started more recently, but that's because these lemon slices were in storage for a long time, and lemon slices in particular, they have a tendency to darken in food storage even when kept well vacuum sealed like these ones were, and no exposure to light. That's just what they do. So it's best to go through your lemon slices a lot sooner if you're going to dehydrate them. But they still taste good, and I can tell it's still going to make a very wonderful flavored lemon extract. Really, when it comes to using your flavored extracts, it's as easy as thinking of anything that you're going to use vanilla extract in. You can substitute your vanilla extract, because vanilla beans, though they're starting to come down in price finally, I've been excited to see that, it's still a far more expensive extract to make than any of these others. So if you have a place that you can substitute a more expensive vanilla extract for any of these flavored extracts here, then that's what I recommend doing. And that is why I started getting into experimenting with other flavors when it comes to extracts. So here's some things. Think about your different sweetbreads you make. So I have a recipe video I did on a pineapple coconut bread that I used my own homemade pineapple extract in, because I have more that I make with the wine that I used in that. So I used that in the bread itself to add more flavor, and it turned out really good. And also when it comes to making your frostings or your fillings for your various cakes and cupcakes and breads and icings as well, you can add any of these flavored extracts to that depending on what you're making. Now, I have an orange cream pie recipe. I'm still working on it. The last one I made turned out really good, but it needed more orange flavor, so I still got some more experimenting to do. I have an idea up here in my head, and once I get that perfected, I will be doing that recipe. But one of the things that you can use that orange extract in is for the whipped cream topping when you're doing an orange cream pie. Same thing goes with your chocolate cream pie. Now, instead of doing the vanilla extract in the whipped cream that I put on top of the chocolate cream pie, I use my chocolate extract. and it still adds a wonderful flavor and actually brings out more of that chocolate flavor. And then I can save my vanilla extract for things where I really want the vanilla in, and really extend the use of my vanilla by doing it that way. You know, other pies to consider would be like when you make a coconut cream pie, which I don't think I have any pictures of coconut cream pie, though I used to make it all the time. But instead of using the vanilla, make a coconut extract, which I haven't done that yet, but that is an option. And you can use that in place of the vanilla in the coconut cream pie to add a little bit more flavor. However, sometimes we still like having that vanilla added to such things because it adds a certain flavor that you're not going to get by these other ones. But again, experiment with it and just, you know, find ways to use it in that way. Some other things that you can use your extract in is your coffee. Now, usually I'm a black coffee kind of person, but since I've been making the nut milks and really enjoying them in my coffee in the morning, I started experimenting with some of the different extracts just to add a little more flavor. Even though I don't like my coffee sweet and glycerin is sweet, I really, like today, for instance, I tried putting a little bit of the chocolate extract into my coffee and nut milk blend, and it had a really nice flavor. Another thing I've been experimenting with the extracts in is my homemade pancakes. As you might have seen in my latest nut flour video, how to make your own nut flour, and I also did a recipe in there showing how to make a totally gluten-free, all nut flour based pancake. And I added the chocolate flavored extract in that as well. But I've also done some pancakes using some different extracts, some of the fruit ones like the raspberry or something. I can't remember what it was. Now, the one I tend to use the most really is the orange. And that's why I made a bigger batch of the orange, because I go through this one quite a bit more than any of my other flavored extracts. So there's just a few ideas for uses. Just think of all the different things that you make that you would normally use vanilla extract, and consider the flavorings that you have on hand. Would any of these flavors make a doable substitute? And also depending on what it is you're doing. Another thing I like to make on occasion is the orange almond cinnamon rolls. And that's another place I like to use the orange extract, is when I make the icing that I like to drizzle over the top of my orange cinnamon rolls, or orange almond cinnamon rolls. And then let's get back to talking. Mostly we're thinking about sweet things here, but I would think some other places that you can use this are in certain types of Asian foods and other meals. If you're using a totally alcohol-based extract and you don't want any sweetness to it, that might be your choice. Or, you know, like a wine-based extract. So I will be making some wine-based only extracts with no glycerin. That's actually going to be the cheapest and healthiest way to go, because it's homemade wine and I'm not having to use glycerin at all, even though it's non-GMO and food grade. And it's totally safe, but because I have to buy that, where I don't have to buy the wine because I make it from scratch out of our own fruit. So if you're doing some kind of stir fry or anything where you're going to have an orange flavor to it, I wouldn't use it in my orange chicken that I make, and I have a recipe to that, because I'm already using an orange juice in that. But maybe there's some kind of stir fry or something you'd like to add that orange flavor to. Then that's an option there. Or any of the other ones that you think would go good with an Asian type stir fry, then you can put that in as you're stir frying the food and get some of that flavor. Again, for that I would use an alcohol based only, and I do lean towards the wine over vodka or rum when it comes to those kind, because not only is it cheaper, I also know it's non-GMO, because to get a non-GMO vodka is very expensive. And so this is a lot cheaper way to do it. And I find the wine, when using it as even a medicinal extract, is just as effective as any medicinal extract that I have made out of just vodka. And it tastes better too. And again, it's all homegrown and non-GMO and organic, and I love that. Another thing I wanted to talk about is something I was going to make it this last summer, but it got to be so busy I never got around to it, and I haven't made it in years. And that is a Black Forest cake. That's the one cake that we really like around here. And sometimes I'll make it for Patrick or for my oldest son for his birthday, because I love that cake. And so I've been making some cherry extract using the Mother Earth Products sour cherries. and boy, is it a good extract. And so my plan is to use the extract in place of the Kirschwasser on the cake. And not only will that be cheaper, it's actually going to have a better cherry flavor than the Kirschwasser itself. So with that in mind, the extract I'm going to make, because if I start getting back into making the Black Forest cakes, I'm going to be going through a lot of this extract, using it in place of the Kirschwasser. And so that's the extract I'm going to make today using the honey. So let's get started on it, and then be watching down the road for an update on this, so I can let you know, probably be in a this and that video, on how I like the honey in replace of the glycerin as far as making a flavored extract goes. So let's get to this. And hopefully I'll do a better job of staying in the picture this time than I did on my last extract making video. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with, I'm going to make 1 cup of this extract, because that's what's going to fit in your half pint jar. So what I'm going to start with is a ½ cup of the honey. And this is an especially thicker honey, but the raw blackberry honey. So I might not even go up to a ½ cup. That's about a ¼ cup. And you know what? As thick as this is, I think I'm going to leave it at a ¼ cup, because I think if I go a ½ cup, it is going to be too much. So that's going to be the thing when you do a honey-based extract, because your honey is going to be much thicker than even your glycerin, you're going to need to have it more watered down. So you could try adding water to it like you do your glycerin, but because you're going to have to do maybe 1 part honey to 3 parts water, I don't really recommend that. So I recommend in this case adding some type of alcohol, either a wine or a vodka or a rum, when doing this. So I'm going to go ahead and top this off to the 1 cup mark with my homemade wine. So I'm doing 1 part honey, again, to 3 parts wine. If you're using a honey that's a little more runny than this one, you could probably go half and half. Because if it's too thick, it's not going to infuse as well as it will if it's, you know, if you have it a little bit runnier. And what you may want to do is even set this, I don't recommend heating it like on a stove top or anything. You don't want to heat your honey, but you can get it warm and it will dissolve much better into your liquid. But even just keeping it at room temperature, just keep stirring it and eventually it will dissolve in there just fine. Just depends on how much you're in a hurry. But I do recommend trying to keep your honey as raw as you possibly can. You're just going to preserve a lot more of the benefits. So anyway, the reason I'm experimenting with this is for those people who do not want to use glycerin at all. And maybe they're those that have access to honey for a really good price or for free, because they either get it from friends or they barter for it or they have their own bees. Okay, so I have the honey pretty well blended in. It's still a little bit clumpy in places, but I know it's going to continue to dissolve, and I'm not too worried about it because I'm going to be shaking it up periodically anyway, and that's going to continue to blend it in and dissolve it. So what I'm going to do is I have some Mother Earth product cherries here that I kind of forgot about, and I didn't vacuum seal them back up again, so they've gotten sort of chewy. They're not as crispy as they used to be, but boy, they're still really good. In fact, I almost think I like them better chewy like this. But I do want to get them used up. They're not bad. And what I didn't think when I made that whole cup of this stuff is that I want to put a lot of fruit in here to get a lot of flavor. So let's go ahead and pour that in there. And what I can do is just simply make some more and start another flavored extract. Okay, so we'll get a clean lid on there, put it on tight, and then shake it really well. And then I'll be shaking this daily for at least the first week or two, and then I'm going to put it back in storage. Typically it's best to keep it in a dark storage, but sometimes I will leave them out at least for the first week out here so I can remember to shake them, because once I put them away in the cabinet, I don't think to go back and shake them on a regular basis. And in the first week is when it's most important. And so, and especially since I'm using honey, that's going to help keep it blending and dissolving in there real good. In fact, that looks really good. I don't even see any lumps of honey in there. And then if you have any permanent ink on there, and yes, you can on a good brand new lid, it does scrub off with soap and water, wipe off with soap and water pretty decently. But the reason I just clean the lid with soap and water and try not to scrub it is it puts scratches in the lid that then make it harder to get the permanent ink out later. Now, 2 methods you can do is the method I showed you here with the isopropyl alcohol. This is my favorite, but you can, I also think it's the cheapest way to go, but you can also use a dry erase marker. I've done that before, but dry erase markers are kind of expensive. So I try to save those for when I really need them for something else. So just make sure you put what's in here and the date that you started it, because you're going to need to let it sit for a total of 2 months at least. Now, if I don't need it right away, I will just leave it in there. I do not strain it out until I'm ready to actually use it. So this could sit, since I have plenty of cherry extract, as you can see right here, this could probably sit for quite a while and it will be just fine. It will the cherries in there are going to stay well preserved. So then the other thing I wanted to mention is right here, these cherries you see in this liquid, these are the cherries from the freeze-dried cherries from previous cherry extracts I've made. And so what I've done is left just enough liquid in there to keep them covered, and I'm saving these cherries like this. They're really good. That's one thing about the fruit, is when you strain out the fruit, it's so tasty. So find ways to use it. Don't throw that fruit out. So what I'm going to be doing with this is, on the Black Forest cake, these are going to be the cherries that I put in between the layers so that I can get the most out of these. And you know, so sometimes you can buy canned cherries, fresh cherries, or whatever that you put in there, but I already have these and they're well preserved and they have a wonderful flavor. So those are going to go as the layer in the cake, and I think that'll be a great way for me to use them up. All right, so I hope this video gave you some ideas of things that you can use your stuff in. Oh, here's another one, cookies. We use vanilla extract a lot in cookies. And most of the things I'm thinking of are desserty type stuff, but I'm sure there's plenty out there you can think of if you just get creative and start messing around with them and just start, you know, when you start cooking, you start baking, you're like, oh, I normally use vanilla extract. Maybe I should try something different. Maybe on those chocolate chip cookies, instead of adding vanilla extract, add some chocolate for even more chocolate flavor, or add coffee, or add raspberry or orange, or any of these flavored extracts. I think it'd be great. So anyway, just take those extracts and run with them. There's so much you can do, and that way you can spend less money on your vanilla extract and make it last longer, all that expensive stuff, because you're using less expensive ingredients to make other flavors, and you get to be more unique and add some more excitement to your different meals. All right, hope you enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Take care, and God bless.